Today, we are diving into something you see everywhere in politics, something that's really the engine of democracy: political parties. We hear about them all the time, but what do they actually do and why do they matter so much? Let's find out. So, here's our game plan for today. We are going to start with the absolute basics. What even is a party? Then we'll get into why we need them, look at how many is too many, zoom in on the different types of parties here in India, and then we'll tackle the big challenges they face and what we can do about them. You know, it's a funny thing. For most of us, political parties pretty much are democracy. They're one of the most visible parts of it. But at the same time, we're often super critical of them, right? We blame them for all the problems. So that's the puzzle we are starting with. If they get so much criticism, why are they considered so essential? To figure that out, we need to be on the same page. So let's get right down to it. What is a political party really? What's the core definition? At its heart, it's actually pretty simple. A political party is basically an organized group of people. And what's their goal? To contest elections and hopefully win so they can hold power and run the government. They do this by agreeing on certain policies and programs that they think are best for everyone. And every single party, it doesn't matter if they're huge or tiny, is made up of these three types of people. You've got the leaders, the ones at the top, making the big decisions. Then you have the active members. These are the people doing the real groundwork. And finally, you have the followers, which includes all the citizens who support the party and show up to vote for them. And this leads us to a really important word: partisanship. You can see the word party right in there, can't you? That's because a party represents a part of society. Partisanship is when someone is really strongly committed to their party's stance on things. Partisanship is marked by a tendency to take a side and inability to take a balanced view on an issue. Okay? So we know what a party is. Now let's tackle that big question from the beginning. Why are they so necessary? I mean, what jobs do they actually do that make it pretty much impossible to imagine a modern democracy without them? So, what's on their to do list? Well, it's a lot. First, they contest elections by picking candidates. Second, they present us with different policies and programs which helps us make a choice. Third, they play a huge role in making laws. Fourth, the winning party gets to form and run the government. But what about the losers? Well, they have a key job too. They act as the opposition, keeping the government in check. Parties also shape public opinion by raising important issues. And finally, they are the link between us, the people, and the government, helping us access services and schemes. Without parties doing all this, democracy would be chaotic. So, yes, imagine trying to do all of that without any organization. It would be chaos. In a huge country, a representative democracy just wouldn't work without parties to handle all these essential functions. They are basically a necessary part of the whole deal. Alright, so parties do a ton of work, but how many should a country have? Is there some kind of magic number? Well, not every democracy is the same. So let's explore the different party systems around the world. You can really break it down into three main types. First, you have the one party system, like in China, where just one party is allowed to be in control. No competition. But this isn't a democratic option. Then there's the two party system, like in the US or the UK, where power usually just bounces back and forth between two big players. And then you have the multi party system, like we have in India, where a bunch of parties compete and often have to team up in alliances or coalitions to form a government. And this brings up a really key idea. A country doesn't just pick its party system from a menu. The party system grows out of its history and its society. Just think about India. We have so much diversity, right? Social, geographical, cultural. It's huge. It would be impossible for just two or three parties to represent everybody. So our multi party system just kind of evolved naturally from that reality. In a multi party system like India's, something really common happens. Parties form an alliance or a front. Why? Well, because with so many parties competing, it's often hard for any single one to win a majority of seats on its own. So they team up. They join hands to contest elections and win power together. You've definitely heard of examples like the NDA or the UPA, okay? In India, we have tons of political parties. So, how does a party get officially recognized? What's the process? Well, it all comes down to the Election Commission. They have a process for recognizing political parties, and getting recognized is a really big deal. Why? Because these recognized parties get special privileges, like a unique election symbol, like the hand or the lotus. Only the official candidates of that party can use that symbol, which is super important for voters to easily identify who they are voting for. Okay? So there are different levels of recognition. To become a state party, a party has to check two boxes. First, it needs to get at least 6% of the total votes in a state assembly election. And second, it has to win at least two seats in that same election. Get both of those, and you are a recognized state party. To level up to a national party, the rules are tougher. A party has to meet a vote share condition and a seat condition. For the vote share, it needs to get at least 6% of the total votes across the country in the Lok Sabha election, or it needs to get 6% of the votes in assembly elections in at least four different states. So it's one or the other for the votes. But on top of that, it absolutely must win a minimum of 4 seats in the Lok Sabha. So it's votes plus seats. So who's on the list right now? Well, as of the 2023 update from the Election Commission, India has 6 recognized national parties. They are the Aam Aadmi Party, the Bahujan Samaj Party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, the Communist Party of India Marxist, the Indian National Congress, and the National People's Party. So we have the system and we have the players, but it is definitely not a perfect world. Political parties everywhere, including here in India, are up against some really serious challenges, problems that can actually weaken our democracy. And these challenges pop up pretty much everywhere. First, there is a lack of internal democracy, meaning a few top leaders hold all the power. Second, you have dynastic succession where leadership is basically passed down like a family heirloom. Third is the growing influence of money and muscle power, especially during elections. And finally, there is this feeling that maybe the parties aren't all that different anymore, that they aren't offering us a real meaningful choice. Pointing out the problems is the easy part, right? The real question, the tough one, is how can we actually fix this? Let's look at some of the things that have been tried and some of the big ideas for what could be done next. Alright, so some important steps have already been taken. There is the anti defection law, which was made to stop elected politicians from just switching parties whenever it benefits them. The Supreme Court has ordered that every candidate has to file an affidavit detailing their property and any criminal cases against them. And the Election Commission is pushing for more transparency by making parties hold their own internal elections and file income tax returns. But a lot of people say that's just not enough. So there are other big ideas on the table. One is a new law to actually regulate the internal workings of parties to make sure they are democratic. Another huge one is to make it mandatory for parties to give at least one third of their election tickets to women candidates, and a third is state funding for elections to try and get big money out of politics and make it a more level playing field. And all of this kind of boils down to one really powerful idea. It's so easy to get frustrated and just criticize politics from the sidelines. But this quote reminds us that the only real solution to bad politics isn't to give up on it. It's to engage with it, to demand better, and to work for more and better politics. So, as we wrap this up, the final question isn't really about the parties, it's about us. The health of our democracy doesn't just depend on our politicians, it depends on our participation. So, the real question is, what role are you going to play in all this? How will you help shape the future of our democracy?